Okay. So what happens in the beginning of these things is that there's a little interim where I have to wait for Zoom to do whatever it's going to do and YouTube to do whatever it's going to do. So I'm just going to introduce myself as Dennis. I'm the owner of Man Up Life Coaching. I'm going to introduce you as my buddy Matt. I'm going to be open and say that we work together in a professional capacity. I'm in San Diego, California. You're in Portsmouth, UK by way of Plymouth. We are not just working together as coach and client, but we've kind of become friends. I have a Discord server. I've made you the one of the moderators in my group. I've taken a shine to you. I like you. I consider you to be prodigious. And I'm actually inviting you to chat with me outside of our normal sort of paid coaching sessions. Because real talk, you've been blowing me up about this girl that you're interacting with. And I thought, how do I help my dude get through this sticking point and turn it into useful content for somebody else who might be going through the same thing? So so we're going to call you Matt, since that's your name. And I guess the cat's out of the bag since you've got your thing on there, but it's all good. We're not going to say anything that's going to get you in trouble out there. So you're somebody who grew up a little bit shy and was good in school and is evolving from the dude who gets the sand kicked in his face on the beach to this really awesome version of yourself where you've ditched the heavy framed glasses, you've grown your hair out a bit, you've grown a beard, you've been exercising, you've been doing
leaning into fashion a little bit more.
The mom sweater notwithstanding. So just to start, and without making a whole diatribe about it, but what have been some of the ways you've seen yourself go from insecure to confident outside of the dating realm, just in terms of personal relationship and social?
It's interesting because you don't notice it when you're going through it. And the way I recounted this to anyone who will listen to me, friends, family, about the journey I've been on, when I start to really reflect, number one, I think this was one of the earliest things you ever told me, was stop the self-criticizing, stop the self-doubt. Don't criticize yourself at all. Give validations. And even if I'm not like as consistent with my validations as maybe I should be, it's enough that it's brought me out of the downward spiral that I found myself in, the negative circle. And everything that you said at the beginning, this is like year one, and we're just over a month from that now, has come true. Essentially, it's been slow progress, but it's been steady progress. And I can only imagine in the next year where I'll be. The growth has been incredible, and it's only a small amount when you think about it, but it's considerable. So number one,
I appreciate
confidence.
That. I appreciate
number
that.
One, confidence and self-criticism's gone.
Yeah. You're. By the way, I just want to make sure it's clear. This isn't a glorified infomercial. I didn't prompt you before this and say, "Hey, do me a favor, play wingman and give Man Up Life Coaching a little reach around that." This is completely unsolicited. So, thanks.
But it's been on my mind. These thoughts have been on my mind a lot lately. So
really, about the transition. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my challenge. I'm going to keep it like 100 in this thing. I'm just going to be as real as possible. Because if I'm a dude watching this, I'm like, okay, cut the bullshit. Just say real stuff so I can get some value here. So here's some real stuff. I'm in San Diego. You're in the UK. I have a client, another guy named Matt B, right? And he's a client that I started working with a while ago. You're around the same age. He's since evolved into an administrative capacity in my organization. And one of the advantages that he has in the dating game over you is that he did spend a lot of time and energy out there in the world of women. He got a lot of notches in his belt, so to speak. He gained a lot of experience points out there. And so he's not green. Then again, he's got his battle scars. So, if you're going to learn how to cook, you're going to probably, cut your finger, you get some oil spatter on it. He slayed a few dragons, man, or been slayed and kept a journal. Okay, don't do that again. So I turned to you, I recognized I'm a 50-year-old guy, and I'm like, here's a 30-year-old dude who might just, even if he doesn't realize he's doing it, be holding me to some coaching game standard that's out there established by 20-somethings.
I do know I'm doing that.
Yeah, and I know that you're doing it. And what I've been trying to tell you is, I'm a 50-year-old guy who has had a tremendous amount of experience out there in the world of women. And I really know what I'm talking about, but I also appreciate how you might more easily take dating information from a dude in his 30s than you might from a dude in his 50s. So I turned you onto my dude, Other Matt, and said, hey, Other Matt, could you tell my dude to stop tripping and to, just kind of show a little solidarity and reinforce for him that everything that, this old bull is telling him is good stuff. And so you've engaged in a dialogue. So I woke up this morning to discover 50 new messages on my Discord server, and they were all you two. And I was like, oh my freaking God, are you kidding me? All right.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you the severity of this situation on my side, but also to kind of like state a point here, is that everything that had been going in the positive sense in the past year for my life, social, appearance-wise, job, that was going really well and steady. This is the one thing that I haven't got a handle on, and it's so important to me, as you can tell, from how deep I'm going into this, that it's the one that is the trickiest and the hardest for me. And that's why I think I'm going so heavy into it right now.
Got it.
It means a lot to me. That's why.
Got it. Well, it's the meaning a lot to me piece that I want to speak to. So if somebody's watching this, they're like, all right, what the hell does any of this have to do with dating? Well, this is precursor, because you're a smart guy. I assume that a guy who's going to watch this and get value out of it is just going to be a smart guy. Smart guys are overthinkers. You're a wicked overthinker.
Oh, classic.
Classic, right. I gave you chess, and you grabbed it like a pit bull grabbing a rope toy, just wrangled it and wouldn't let it go. And the result is you're using the analytical part of your brain in an effective way in that environment, because it's a zero-sum environment with no random factors. And if you apply analytical method, you get positive results. Women, we have historically rediscovered as men over the centuries, which is why I'm saying, yeah, I might be 50, but dude, I'm still a baby in this game. Women have historically, we constantly repeat these patterns of behavior we've been seeing since Shakespeare, we've been seeing since the Old Testament. I don't care how new age you get with gender identification and all of this, which in and of itself is a spectrum, and I believe that. Still, there are tried and true polarized stereotypes, the classical male, the classical female, and then there is a spectrum of gender identification in between. The guys who are attracted to my business model, here, let me put my let me get some branding going here. There we are. The guys who are attracted to the Man Up Life Coaching business model are attracted to the idea of men who adhere a little bit more closely to traditional masculine roles, not sexist roles. We're not here to piss off any feminazi vegans, for, no, I don't want to get into that whole thing. I'm just saying we believe in a certain level of masculinity, whatever that means. So as far as dating goes, trying to apply that analytical skill set to understanding what makes women tick when we are having this dating dialogue, this A-B dialogue, can be incredibly frustrating. And it leads a person like you to hyper analysis, which can be exhausting. Has that been your experience?
Probably go one further and say it's been bloody frustrating.
Yeah, just in case my audience didn't know. Yeah, so he's did I mention he's British? Yeah, it's bloody frustrating. So here's what I observe. I observe that you started out really low in confidence. We got you out there. You joined a meetup group. You were super shy about it. You didn't want to be the wallflower. You didn't want to be the unwitty, unattractive, sort of nerdy, skinny white guy with the big black glasses that doesn't socially know how to interact. And what you discovered with some coaching and also some reframing that you did on your own was, hey, that's a role that I don't have to play. That's a role I've been playing, but I don't have to continue playing it. I can take another outfit out of the dress-up box. I can be somebody else. I can try another role. And so the role you decided to play was, hey, I'm just this casual, laid-back, fun-loving guy who's here to meet some folks in the new town that I'm living in and develop some high-level relationships and kind of see where things go. And the result was you were a freaking instant hit and you developed a stalker. No, we don't want to call her a stalker, but there was definitely some female interest.
Yeah.
Enough female interest, in fact, that you thought, wow, look at me, I have options, which was kind of a new thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a novelty.
A novelty, a nice novelty. And to your credit, you didn't overcompensate, because I hate when I see that. Like a guy who's had none gets some, and all of a sudden getting some just starts to behave in a way that demonstrates that he's always secretly wanted to be exactly that douchebag that used to kick sand in his face. So you didn't do that.
No.
Okay. So there's been this advice from dating coach. Just that, we're not going to say dating coaches per se, but there's an internet, we're on it, and it's full. You can Google game dating tips, whatever, and you can find a bunch of stuff that gives advice like, be more masculine, don't text too much, don't be just, there's a list of things that, in the Venn diagram of dating advice, there's this overlap that creates this sort of rule set that you've been carrying around as your 10 commandments. This is how you get girls.
And I still lean into that. And, it would take some time for me to retrain that. But still, there is some stock into it, definitely. But
there are truisms for getting women in general. But what's happened here is that you now have reduced women to a woman. You are interacting with a woman. I've had the opportunity to privately chat with you about who this woman is. No, I mean, not weird. You haven't divulged anything critical, but I've had an idea. I've gotten an idea who this particular woman is. And she satisfies a lot of check boxes that I look for before I greenlight a potential partner for my guys. She's not mean-spirited. She comes from a healthy, loving family and has healthy relationships with her parents, her father in particular. That tends to be a big one. We watch out for the daddy didn't love me chicks. Hey, as a daddy didn't love me dude, I know that codependent relationship. It's very lusty and intense, and it leads to destruction. If that's a ride you want to go on, great, but I suggest staying off of it. Been there, done that. So she's a good person. She's not mean-spirited. She's in fact kind-spirited. She comes from a good family. Not that that has to be a prerequisite. You can find people who come from broken backgrounds, but it's a plus. She comes from a good family. That pattern is there. She doesn't need to be socialized or trained into being comfortable socially. She gets the family dynamic. You could visit her family. You could vibe with them. She could visit your family. She could vibe with them. She gets it. You met on social media, which is how everybody meets these days. Sidebar, there's a revolution brewing because dudes are getting sick of meeting people online, and they're a lot more interested in going back to analog interactions. And that's where I excel because I'm an analog man.
And it's the same from girls' perspective as well.
Yeah, right. I mean, right. Because there are things missing, like pheromones, just anyway. So other criteria that
similar sense of humor.
Similar sense of humor. I've always said there has to be a similar sense of humor, because a similar sense of humor suggests that you're intelligent similarly. There are different types of intelligence. My partner and I are famously cynical people. We're also kind of bright people, not to toot my own horn, but Harvard defines cynicism as the highest demonstration of human intelligence. Living in San Diego and coming from the Northeast, I've noticed that a lot of my Northeast snark is completely lost on the average local San Diegan, who's really, really gentle-spirited, really, really kind and peaceful, really, really into sunshine and the beach and Taco Tuesday. But my snark is taken literally, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay, I got to tone it down." So Celia and I met in New Orleans. We loved each other. My partner, we loved each other and lived happily ever after. Like your little lady friend here, Celia checked all of these boxes. She's independent. She has her own job. She's doing for herself, working in a professional space. One of the only challenges you have right now is that you're maybe an hour and a half drive from each other. And because of that distance, most of your communication has been over text, and you're freaking out about interpreting what all of these things that she's saying means. What I told you was, bro, you're a good guy. She's a good woman. From your exchanges, I promise she likes you a lot. She's into you. And the biggest challenge that you're having is trusting that she is in fact interested in you, and not being so desperate not to lose her that you overdo it. And you're trying to play her like a game of chess.
I'm trying to navigate this sort of like the minefield, essentially. But then you could easily say the minefield's in my mind, and it's not actually what's going on.
That's exactly what I would say. You looking at a minefield means that what you're looking at, what I would love for you to be seeing is a field, not a minefield, a field, just a field. In a field, you can chill. In a minefield, you're obsessed over the things that could potentially go wrong. That kind of worry isn't a demonstration of faith or confidence. So the truth is, even if you were in a minefield, it would be your job to use your intelligence on the back end to quietly assess where the threats were and to guide her very cleverly through that minefield and exude the confidence that, no, we're just in a field. The truth of the matter is, however, that you're not in a minefield. You're just in a field. And to use the vernacular here, you're tripping. And you need to quit tripping. Because in classic man-woman dynamic, and again, let the haters hate, but I'm going to just stick to my basic binary gender language here. Typically, it's the masculine energy, who's usually the man, although it can be the reverse, who wants to just kind of chill and avoid thinking about bad stuff. And it's the very feminine energy, which is typically represented by the female in the relationship, who has a tendency to worry and overthink and catastrophize and imagine problems, which is why we say when we're doing that as men, that that's our inner bitch. Again, not saying women are bitches, but you know this language. David Goggins, just tell your inner bitch to shut the fuck up, like right that. So what we practice, like when you're actually in a relationship, then you'll get to see the side of me as a coach that helps guys to be the listener and to allow her to be the worrier and to freak out and to vent. And your job is to not take any of her frettering literally and to recognize that what she's looking for is empathy, which is different than sympathy. Sympathy is, oh, you're fucked. Wow, wouldn't want to be you. Empathy is, oh, well, let me come into that space with you and feel what you're feeling. That's what she wants. She wants you to feel what you're feeling. She feels what you're feeling. You feel what she's feeling. She feels reassured because she's not alone. She eventually calms her little freak out down, says everything is better, throws her arms around you and says, you're my big, strong man, or medium strong man, who was a rock for me through this scary time. So my job in our dynamic is I have to be that for you. I have to tell you, you're frettering, your inner bitch is freaking out. Calm down. You're creating problems where they aren't there. Go meditate. Go look at a wall and shut up. But my feelings, yes, your feelings, shut up. Your feelings, you're going to feel them. It's like having a stomach ache. Yeah, your stomach doesn't feel good. You're on the toilet. That's not fun. Deal with it. It'll pass. They don't mean anything. Just let it go. Those are your feelings. Don't invite people into the bathroom with you. Just handle your business. What you'll discover is if you learn how to not react to your own catastrophizing and you learn to redirect towards something like meditation, playing an instrument, working on a project, painting the broadside of a barn, cutting an acre of grass with a pair of scissors, whatever it is that you need to do, you'll practice being somebody. You'll practice self-mastery. You'll practice fathering your inner ninny so that you have more confidence to project for her when she's tripping. Your job is to reassure her, not to freak out that everything she says means she doesn't like you. Do you vibe with that?
Yeah, but putting it into practice is a whole other thing for me right now.
Bro, putting anything into practice is a lot different than saying you're going to do it. I mean, how many people say they're going to have, this is going to be my diet and these are my macros and blah, blah, blah. This January, a whole lot of people are going to have some really good sounding plans. Holler at me in August. Right? So we're doing this openly. I have a session in 10 minutes. I literally said I would do this just ad hoc for you in exchange for some content. What do you want to know? We're not, like I said, we're not going to put her on blast, but YouTube Live, here we are. You've got a ton of questions. What do you want to know? Rip me open here. Free advice.
Wasn't prepared for this. I mean, it seems like, I'm listening to what you're saying about how you're interpreting her responses on text. And I wish I could, show the audience so they can also see what I'm talking about. But it feels to me, because I'm drawing upon past experiences, this is where the over-analytical comes in. I'm the type of personality, I've got to make decisions on the future based on the past. Is what I'm seeing makes me feel insecure because it comes off like she's not as interested as I would expect. And it's, freaking me out. It makes me feel like I'm moving into the friend zone. I don't know how else I could describe it, because when I know a girl is like really interested, she would make it easy. She wouldn't make it this difficult. And I do have my gut feelings on this. Maybe they steered me wrong in the past, but I just feel something's not quite right.
Yeah, and that's projection. When I coach guys, I listen for the words think and feel. Think is a very masculine word. Feel is a very feminine word. I am not saying that guys are incapable of feeling, and I'm not saying that women are incapable of thinking. I'm saying that how many women are in your chess club, right? A disproportionate number of men to women. Is that because women can't think logically? No. That said, isn't it pretty obvious that there is a propensity for men to wax analytical and a propensity for women to wax feely, intuitive, vibrational? Yeah, that's there. Why is that there? It's beyond the scope of this conversation. The fact is that's there. I've said a bunch of times in this conversation already that masculine and feminine traits and energies do not have anything to do with biological anatomical sex. Anatomical sex, you're born male, you're born female, or you're born intersex, which itself is a spectrum and can represent as, chromosomal anomalies, both, apparatus, male and female junk. But gender is more about identification. And a lot of times it's not scientifically quantifiable. How many times have you heard a guy that's like, oh, I can't wait for you to meet my wife? And you're like, wait, you have a wife? Or some short-haired woman who's like, yeah, so, I've always liked power tools ever since I was a kid. And you're thinking, okay, well, she's a woman, but I wouldn't describe her as feminine. I would call that more masculine energy. So I just want to be really, really careful to say that we all, just like the yin yang, everybody's got a, you might be predominantly masculine with some feminine energy, or predominantly feminine with some masculine energy. In this particular dynamic, what I'm seeing is that you're saying feel a lot. And usually when I hear people say feel, that means that as a man, you're dealing with feminine energy that you're not used to dealing with, and you haven't mastered and you're not good at. What you're calling your gut feeling is really actually a fear-based reaction and a projection. You're projecting a narrative. You can test it by getting together at some point. If you guys do hook up and end up dating and, a couple of months down the line, you could go back and go through your texts and say, hey, just out of curiosity, my coach said that in this text exchange, You shared this stuff with your coach? Oop, my bad. Yeah, I did. Anyway, I just really I didn't want to lose you. So my coach said that you were being really, that you were being showing a lot of interest, that's what all those hearts and exclamation points and everything meant. For some reason, I was reading that as you weren't responding fast enough and that you weren't especially interested in me. And I guarantee she's going to be like, I was really, 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 really into you.
No, I have to come in here and say that's not what I'm worried about. That type of thing's great. It's more other things, reading between the lines, that would be probably difficult to say at this point.
No. But reading between the lines, that's what we call projection and mind reading. What I see a lot of guys do when they quote unquote read between the lines is they fill in the gaps with information that is based on their male value system. You're familiar with the Laurel and Yanny phenomenon, yeah?
Yeah.
You're both in the same room listening to sound coming across the same device. You're hearing Laurel, and she's hearing Yanny. There's no right or wrong in that situation. There's the objective truth, there's your perception, and there's her perception. So what I'm saying is when you're filling in the blanks, you might be filling in the blanks with some Laurel. And what her world is Yanny. And my job as an intermediate is to help people to communicate who are having trouble validating each other's way of perceiving. So as a way of playing a soft stage, here's what I'm going to say. I've told you from the beginning, you're easily one of the coolest guys I've ever worked with. I freaking love you, and I think that you're amazing, and I can't wait for your relationship, whether this one or some other relationship, to move into a casual, comfortable space where you're not giving yourself a freaking ulcer worrying about if this person likes you or if they don't. My advice would be play it slowly, be nice, be frequent, don't overtext, don't overcommunicate, offer from your abundance reassurance rather than fishing for reassurance from her. Try to set up as many in-person dates as you can, because the text stuff can create a lot of frustration. Not only can it create misinterpretation, it can just create frustration because you feel like you're developing at an intellectual level, but you're not developing similarly at a physical level. And when all else fails, be honest and just openly communicate without making it dramatic. Yeah. And in the meantime, don't trip, do you. You have core programming. We work on our exercise, we work on our diet, we play chess, we meditate, we validate, we do interesting things. So the next time she talks to you and says, hey, what have you been up to? You can say, oh, I was just whatever. I've been teaching myself ice sculpture or whatever, rather than, oh, I've been sitting around in a room tripping, wondering what every single word you type really means. Does that jive? Does that vibe?
It does. But now I wish I was thinking, yeah, I've got to be my own coach essentially, because I can't have you around all day every week.
Teach a man to fish, bro. That's what we're doing here. You know how I could make a ton of money? I could make a ton of money by convincing you people regularly that you need me. You only need me for a time.
Yeah.
It's like giving a baby a wheelchair because he can't walk. I'm like, what the fuck? You don't do that.
People want to be other people to be reliable. They don't want to rely on themselves. So it doesn't come easy.
Right. So the way we're gonna finish this is by saying, if you've been watching this up until this point, hopefully you've enjoyed this very, very honest, very, very raw, very, very real communication between two people who work together in a professional space. And we have the balls to put this out there because we're hoping that if you're a dude who's engaging with some female out there, and woman, girl, whatever, I fail when it comes to the PC language. But if you're in a dating space right now and you're tripping, hopefully this helps you to trip a little bit less. And if you're worrying, just remember that might not be your gut instinct. That might just be habit, and you can develop new habits. If you're feeling this and you want to hear more, like and subscribe. Matt, I think it's a good time for us to deuce out. So on that note,